We're back for another Trinity episode. This is number 5. We are finally hitting the last NFC division, NFC West. Congrats to the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champs. We waited till it was official that they would be losing their offensive coordinator. But we're here. If you've missed the first 4, tap in. We've done 3 NFC divisions and 1 AFC South. We did that last week before we pivoted back to the NFC for this week's show. We're talking every player, every situation in each division leading up to NFL free agency. We're going to be using the Trinity Tracker, which you can find on ddfantasyfootball.com. Jump in there, mock draft for free during rookie season. Most importantly, though, and Ray will echo this, be part of our Discord. Get in our community. We talk about this stuff all the time, whether we're recording here, recording on stages. There's a constant conversation of whatever's happening in Dynasty, Fantasy, NFL space, whatever. So if you're not already in there, jump in, become a member on YouTube as well. A lot of stuff to pitch, but Ray, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk some. This is a fun division, NFC West. How you feeling?
Yeah, the season is over, and this is the part of this is where it really gets fun because there's a story to be told for every team, for every player, for every situation. And the funny thing is, it's a story that will continue to evolve for the next 5, 6, 7 months till we get to the start of the regular season again. It's time for strategy, theory, hopium, talking through stuff, breakouts, third year, second year, veteran year. Like this is the fun part. This is where you get to play pretend GM and rebuild your team and make moves and have conviction and use new processes and try out new tools. So hell yeah, I'm 100% echoing what you just said about community, and especially in today's time, right? You need that interaction with folks that like the kind of stuff that you like. I'm telling you, no better place to be. No better place to be. No better place to be. So let's talk about it, baby. NFC West. I'm excited. Good division, good receivers, great receivers.
Yeah, arguably 3 of the top 5 pass catchers probably in the league out of this division with Puka, JSN, Trey McBride. I mean, we'll pop up the Trinity score for all 4 of the divisions up there, but that's what definitely stands out is, I mean, if you ask people who's the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, like it's probably Puka and JSN in some order. Trey McBride, tight end 1. I mean, and the usage backs it up. So that's what stands out here. I think the thing I'm most interested to talk to you about is the changes for a couple of these teams. I mean, we have new coaches. We have a new coach in Arizona. We have a new offensive coordinator, still to be determined as of right now. But it sounds like the Seahawks are going to try to keep as much the same as they did this year, which is probably smart for them.
Yes.
But those things are on the tip of my mind, is especially Arizona. Let's start with Arizona before we go into anything else. I mean, we can look at, if you have any other observations as a whole, we can look at that. But that's the one that I think most people they're just not sure. It feels like there's a lot of money to be either won or lost based on what you're betting on the Cardinals doing in 2026.
So you want to just start with Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, unless there's anything else, there's not really any other takeaways other than I do think with Seattle and San Francisco, both those teams could use a couple more pass catchers. Like that's something that I notice is looking at all the divisions. There's only 8 players in the whole division that had a Trinity score above a 5. And that's probably on the low end. If you take 4 teams in every division, I mean, there's like the studs, and then there's a bunch of gnats in this division. So probably a couple teams that could use some additions, whether that's a draft or free agency. So we'll talk about that too. But let's go to Arizona.
We got them up. Cardinals. Great for Trey McBride. What a season. If you had him, I hope you won. Great season for McBride.
Well, talk about that. I mean, we're looking at the season, and we're obviously looking here at just PPR production. But, like, talk about how incredible it is to see a tight end up there damn near going blow for blow with the elite receivers. And if you think about, a 175 tight end premium, a 2 tight end premium, like his usage is great regardless of the premium. And then you figure, okay, he's also going to catch 100 balls and you get double the points every time. I mean, that's why he smashed, right? It's not just the premium, but it's like he's being used. He's a receiver that could give you 100 for 1,410 touchdowns. Like he's an elite receiver one outside of the premium. And that's just, it's an outlier season. Like it's hard to look at Trey McBride and go, man, he's just going to repeat this every year because he had a historically great season.
Well, talk about that. Talk about how it got there, Scott, because before I just, what was different about this situation? Not vibes, not feeling, just factually. What did, and you don't have to give me the direct numbers, but how historically volume heavy was this offense?
Yeah, I mean, second in neutral pass rate, 8th in plays per game. Their concentration was pretty good as well, meaning like they don't have, if you look at Arizona, I mean, this is just for the full season. Even though we know Marvin Harrison was in and out, and we know Michael Wilson was in and out, but like they didn't have a lot of other guys that really got in the way, right? Most of the games, it was probably Trey McBride, always the staple anchor, wide receiver, target option number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Marvin Harrison and Michael Wilson. And they didn't have really anything else that was eating away at the usage for those guys, which is why you saw Marv have some good games. You saw Michael Wilson have some great games. You had Trey McBride damn near elite tight end every week.
Yes.
But you had the high pass rate. You had the high plays run per game. But then you also had the concentration score that really made it so that, like, whenever they got in one of those game scripts, which they pretty much did ever since Jacoby Brissett was the starter, that's why it felt so good, because they didn't have 4 receivers they were spreading out their secondary targets to. They didn't have a second tight end that was eating 4 or 5 targets a game. So it was a perfect marriage in which it's hard for me to reconcile, right? Because like the positive is they're bringing a offensive coordinator from the Rams, right? That already also runs a highly concentrated target share and has been for the Rams for years. So I think that's probably the way, if I had to bet, that's probably going to be in their vision, is like, let's get the ball to our top 2 or 3 players. We're not going to try to completely change that up. So that's good if you have Marv. That's good if you have Michael Wilson. It's great if you have Trey McBride. I think the parts you question are the efficiency wasn't great. So despite all of these things, it isn't like you were being led by a higher end quarterback, right? Like the volume and the design of the offense was what was carrying the pass catchers and the production. And I would look at Jacoby Brissett as he was just a catalyst to all of that. He was the quarterback, right?
Jacoby
and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve credit, but I don't look at Jacoby Brissett and say he was the reason why it was happening. He contributed to it, but I wouldn't say it was all because of him. And I think that's the fallacy, is I've heard people say, oh, well, if they go right back to Jacoby Brissett, they're just going to be as good as they were last year. And I think that's a mistake. But I think the positives are the way they're concentrating the offense and where their head coach came from. That's the positive part. I can't guarantee you that the volume's going to be the same, the pass rate's going to be the same, and we already know the quarterback efficiency was not driving the offense to production. So that's how I break it down. If the quarterback play is average, I like the design of the current weapons that they have and the fact that they don't have a lot of, I mean, there's nobody on that screen that I even value as a gnat. You have a couple free agents on there, and then you have a backup tight end that is nothing like Trey McBride. So unless this team just completely goes rogue and just says they have to add 2 more guys, like I think I'm very confident with the 3 guys they have. It's going to be the quarterback play and then maybe some of the nuances of the LaFleur offense that drives. Can Arizona repeat a top 12 environment like they had last year? If so, we're probably undervaluing guys like Michael Wilson and Marv. One of them's probably a top 20 receiver or better, if I had to say, if all of that's true. But I guess that's the question, is does it repeat?
Well, let me start by saying you asked how impressive or how good this McBride season was. So I've got some Trinity data for you. Going back to 2022, McBride has the 28th highest Trinity score overall going back to 2022.
Wow.
Every other player above him, they're all wide receivers. Of those 28 wide receivers who had more team usage than Trey McBride. Do you know how many outscored him in points per game for a season? 8. That's it. 8 of the 28. Those are the only ones who outscored him on a per game basis. We're talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyreek Hill from 2022. We've got, who's this? CeeDee Lamb when he was 23 points per game. Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase. You've got one from Justin Jefferson in 2024, Justin Jefferson in 2022. And then next up is Trey McBride. Oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown and him tied 1 year. But next up is Trey McBride from 2025. And then if you go back, the next tight end after that is Travis Kelce and then Trey McBride again from 2024 inside of the top 60 overall scores. It is.
I mean, you just named like the 7 elite receivers of the last 5 years and their best season. And you said Trey McBride was only not as good as that. And that's crazy.
So to your point, I can't project that again. Not again. If he does it, even if he's pulled back 10%, 15% of what he did, he's still an absolute monster. He's not the above all cheat code. I mean, Scott, his 25 season over the last, I believe, 8 years. I think I looked at this doing some stuff with Yahoo. I mean, it's the best tight end season. It's elite what he did. Him and Kelce. It's like that's all that's up there. Mark Andrews, none of that. They did not do what he did. So to expect a historic season from McBride again, you can't do it. But he's awesome. And the big question to me isn't about McBride. I don't care who's there. He is the number one option in that offense. It's Wilson and Harrison. And what might a running back that can catch the ball do for an offense that won't throw the ball 70% of the time they touch the field? And that was one of the fun things about Arizona. Jay Rich and I would always talk about it. It didn't matter if the Cardinals were down 40-0 in the first quarter. They weren't pulling starters and they were going to keep throwing the ball. They never took their foot off the gas. It didn't matter what the score was. They were throwing until the very last play. I just don't think that's happening again.
Well, let's talk through it because they are going to be losing Zay Jones and Greg Dortch, which those were very minimal in terms of impact, but those are 2 gnats that will just go away. So I imagine they're going to they have to add another couple receivers to round out their room. But I think the questions people are asking most, we've already established Trey McBride. Did you notice you only named Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson one time on there?
Yeah.
So that's almost like saying, even if Trey McBride falls back, he still falls back like one of those guys would fall back from their best season, right? It's not going to be he falls back to where, I'm not comfortable paying tight end 1 prices for him.
Correct.
He falls back to like, okay, maybe he's not a 25% advantage over the next highest guy.
Right.
So like, there's no question about whether you value Bowers higher or Loveland close to McBride. Like, it doesn't really matter. He's an elite asset. He's in his prime. He's already got a contract. Like, none of the other things scare me away from putting him in the top 10, 12, 15 overall players. You can adjust upward if you have a certain premium. But I think the question people want to know is Michael Wilson versus Marvin Harrison. We can look at some splits on those two. How do I value one over the other? Who's worth more? Who should I buy? Who should I sell based on current market conditions? And then also, what does this look like if this team does add a primary running back that just takes up more of the volume, more receptions? Like, they're going to add players. They have 3 running backs that are free agents. So, like, their team, other than their core 3 players, and probably James Conner, Trey Benson will both be on the team. But, like, what else will they add? Because they will have to add players. You can't just roll in the season with 5 offensive players. They're going to need to add some depth. The wide receiver 3, another tight end, etc. So let's go Marvin Wilson. Where you want to start there? You want to go KTC or look at their usage individually? What are you thinking?
Let's go to KTC. I mean, we got to go to KTC.
I haven't looked at their KTC recently, so I'm kind of curious at what their current KCC is actually when you sync it up.
Well, I gotta log back in. Apparently, I don't have a membership to the website. So hold on, I got
Very locked out of his own sight. I love it.
I got to get my membership going. Hold on. Once I get my membership going, we'll be good. But yeah, here's my thought process right away. Let me just say this while I'm pulling it up. I think both can be true. I don't believe that we're going to see the Marvin Harrison Jr. that we thought we were going to see coming out of college. I think that's gone. So number 4 overall, yada yada yada. I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's going away. They're very much incentivized to still throw him the football. I'm not saying he's going to be the primary, but I don't believe that he's just going away and he's not going to play football and he's not going to get opportunity in target. This might be a little messier, at least at first, than we think it might be, than we thinking it could be right now, because we have no damn clue what LaFleur is going to do or what or whom his offense is going to prioritize. So it may take a little bit to figure this one out in Arizona, but we could pull them up on the old KTC here.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing that you said, is that you have to, if you truly want to get a fair valuation on Marvin Harrison Jr., you have to remove what you think he should have been. That has to be out of sight, out of mind. Because if you're gauging him through the lens of he should have been Jamar Chase, he should have been Justin Jefferson, you're just going to continue to penalize him when he isn't those guys, when we're literally telling you, and you and I don't even need to do it, his career usage will tell you he's not those guys.
Correct.
So, like, you don't have to even remember what you think he should have been. It is now recalibrating and evaluating him based on how he's been used the last couple of years. And I mean, we pointed this out during the season. I think people left 2025 thinking that, like, Michael Wilson is better than Marvin Harrison Jr., but the usage doesn't necessarily say that. The results don't say that. In fact, if you removed Michael Wilson, you'd look at Marvin Harrison and go, you know what? He's getting pretty good usage for a number 2 option on a team. But that people don't want to hear that. They want to hear, why isn't he what I drafted him 102 in the rookie draft for?
Yeah.
And if Michael Wilson's even 80% of him, then I don't want him at all, because how is this bum that I never thought was going to be good actually outproducing him half these weeks? So I think reconciling that, I actually think it's a pretty fun comparison between the two, because I think there's positives for both. I mean, we know the games Marvin Harrison didn't play. We can look at the Trinity for Michael Wilson and how he produced. There's something to be said about a guy that one guy got out of the way and the other guy in those weeks absolutely dominated. We haven't seen that from Marv, but we've seen good production on good usage for how many games in Marv's career? 20 plus games. Like, it's not usage where you go, that guy's dead, they should trade him away because he sucks. You know what I mean? So where do you want to go? I mean, we're looking at KTC. He's clearly way more valued still than Michael Wilson. I mean, we're talking Harrison, 1,400 points higher for Marv.
Yeah, 51 and 37.
I don't think the actual market views it that way, right? This is one of those where KTC says one thing, but like your league economy,
it's not. Yeah.
The flexibility, like, put it this way. If I go try to sell Marvin Harrison at that price, someone may want to buy, but I'm going to have a hard time doing that. And if I also go try to throw a late second in this year's class to get Michael Wilson, somebody's going to go, nah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not practical to see this actual gap. But I think it's important to look at it, because there is still a perception that it's like, ooh, I would just take Michael Wilson over Marv. So,
listen, I'm excited. We have the game log of when they each played together?
Yeah, I'll
pull go ahead. You can pull it up. You can pull it up. I'm going to look at something. Go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah, I'm looking at I'm looking at just the specific games
where they were they played together, right?
Well, first I want to look at the difference between when Jacoby Brissett took over as the starter.
Okay.
And then go from there. I think that was the Dallas game was his second game. So week 6 is when Kyler got injured. So we go week 7, rest of season was the Brissett Trinity. So just looking at let's break it there first. Let's go 1 through 6, Arizona.
Got
and
it.
just highlight what it looked like with Kyler versus Brissett. So 1 through 6. This is going to be Marv's usage for the most part because Marv was in there for all these games. I mean, okay, interesting to see that on actually. I haven't looked at this yet. I didn't look at this specific breakdown. I mean,
There's Marvin Wilson. I mean,
and this tells you that Wilson had slightly lower usage but better production.
what
with
weeks
the
are you
usage,
looking
right?
at? Wait, what weeks
1
are you
through
looking at?
6. 1 through 6.
I'm 1 through 6 too. Hit refresh.
Oh yeah. No, you're right.
I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm 1 through 6
No,
too.
you're right. Yeah, there you go.
That's with Kyler. So Marv is getting you 11 points per game, and let me throw McBride up there.
What do you notice though? What do you notice?
Oh, it's all below the line. It's terrible.
That's
terrible.
what I was going to get at, is looking at that, and then if you take the same sample size but change it from 7 to 16, or the same, go 7 to 17, you can see how different it'll be. There before, you had only McBride at the regression line. You had Marv and Michael Wilson below it. Everybody in the offense was below it. And then if you go 7 through 17,
okay,
McBride way above it.
Well, I've only got Harrison and Wilson up because I didn't know we were looking at McBride. I just had Harrison and Wilson up.
I just went to the Cardinals. It's same thing. We're looking at the same thing though. But the top 3 options, the usage the concentration didn't change. You agree with that? It was the same top 3.
Yeah.
But the usage flipped from Michael Wilson over Marv. But the key was all of them got better.
Yeah.
Marv didn't get much better compared to where he was with Kyler, but he got better. And the other 2 got way better.
He got better.
So,
yeah, they got significantly better. I mean, wow. 21 and 17 points per game.
And that's driving, I think, the Michael Wilson hype. That will always drive the Michael Wilson
I get it.
hype. The games where Marv's not there, if you just told me I'm going to get 3 games a year where this dude's going to do this, that's worth damn near a first-round pick, right? Because they're league-winning weeks. They are 25-plus point weeks, what I call in the roster construction series, nuclear weeks. And the amount that they contribute to a win in a week is massive. Like, you get 3 of those in your lineup, Ray, and that's enough to pretty much carry you for the season relative to like a wide receiver 2 that's barely above it every week. You'd rather have the 3 spike weeks where you know exactly when to play that player, and then you'll just deal with the rest of the weeks as they come.
Yep. I could see that. All right. I'm just looking at I want to look at the report for that specified 7 through 17 range. I mean,
well, and if you want to really highlight this before you go into that, go to, because we can filter by.
I've already checked. I know you're not looking at my screen. I've already flipped it, so it's already the ice. The cake is already. It's already out. Spoiled the surprise. I didn't know. You gotta tell me to go to report because I'm going to report because I want to see what they were doing. It's interesting to see the numbers, right? 2.1 yards per route run, 800 yards from week 7 through 17, 811. Wasn't even like he was going crazy with the touchdowns. They only had 5 of them. Imagine if he had a couple more, give him 2 more touchdowns. 558 air yards, 23% target share. He was smashing down the stretch. Smashing.
So if you want to go back real quick, just because people can see exactly what they're probably asking about Wilson, go to the Trinity score chart. Filter weeks 11, 12, 14, and 15. That's it. So you go to select none, you do 11, 12,
I know what the hell to do. 11, 12.
I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm telling
11, 12 what?
14 and 15. These are the 4 games Marvin Harrison Jr. missed.
All right. These are the 4 games. Let's update that chart. Oh, I got to get it to the damn Arizona.
Yep.
Ugh. Is this right?
Those are the 4 games Marv missed. And who is that guy that is literally 927 Trinity with just, I mean, that's Jamar Chase level production, right? Like way above the line. His usage is even worse.
Yeah.
What the question is, what is that worth, right? That's the intriguing thing about Wilson. You don't see that type of when the opportunity is X, the production is Y, and it's that clear. Like, there's not a better example I don't think we can find of any individual player if you highlight 4 specific weeks where another receiver on his team didn't play than this.
You said what's it worth? What's his overall score? Like 5 something?
Yep.
For the year. I'm just trying to look at all the other players that are around him. Let me get the tight ends off the screen for a minute. I mean, what's it worth? I can't even find them on there. Somewhere over here. But I mean, what's his value? 3,700? What did we say it was for Wilson?
3,700. I think go to your right a little bit.
Oh, there it is. He's way back. There he is.
Yep, right there.
That was during that time period. I guess I got to reset it for the week range. Oh, he's way over here. Select none, select all. There, update. There we go. It's like, no, he shouldn't be over there. Here he is. Okay. What's it worth? I mean, how many players above him would you rather have? You know, Travis Hunter is valued higher. Would you rather have Hunter or Michael Wilson?
Wilson.
Wilson. And you probably paused there because you're like, that's probably a deal that can get. You wanted to say you could probably do that. You could probably do that.
I think what makes that, when you ask that question, I think what makes that very interesting, which is why I think it's fun to talk about his trade value, is because the reason why you hesitate, or I hesitated, is because the way you analyze Michael Wilson as a wide receiver is totally different than how you're thinking Travis Hunter, the asset. You almost have to think of like they're both very niche commodities. And so like it's almost like they're not even playing the same position, right? You don't even think of them as the same position because probably where they fit on your roster is a little bit different. But it is interesting to think about really what he is worth relative to his peers at receiver. It's easy if you're going cross-positional, but like you start comparing him to some of these other receivers, and I just think there's a lag in.
Well, let me give you a few more. And there's no leverage here. I just want to go one for one, just as a who you would prefer if you had to pick a receiver at that time on the clock, right? It's just your personal preference. J-Mo or Michael Wilson, because J-Mo's higher value. I'm going everybody with higher value.
I'd be fine with J-Mo.
Okay. Yep. Brian Thomas.
I think I still go BTJ.
Still BTJ. Okay. Still BTJ. We've kind of talked through Marv. Lad McConkey.
Lad.
Luther Burden.
We already talked about Luther Burden.
Luther Burden, just your gut feel right now.
Yeah, Luther. All these names are assets I know I can. I don't have to have this debate. Yes. Luther
Romo Dunze. Rashee Rice. Yep. Garrett Wilson.
G. Will.
Smitty. AJ Brown. Okay, well then he's probably in a good range. Everybody that I named,
next range below him.
Everybody that I named is to the right of that. I think Addison and Pearsall, you'll take Michael Wilson, or if you say Ricky's going to play all season, sure. But everybody that I named is to the right of him. Like he's.
Yep.
Okay. So and then even you know, I guess Hunter is maybe the highest value that you would make that pivot for is Travis Hunter, but he's probably in a good range, Scott.
Well, it's funny because the other guy that's kind of in that same range that we talked about on the last episode was Alec Pierce. We had to do a little finagling, but remember when we said, like, man, oh yeah,
and he's technically below him.
Situation-wise, like we would put Alec Pierce probably top 24 or better if X happens. And I think you can say the same about. I think him and Alec Pierce are the two where if you looked up and you said, wow, we just didn't respect them because of where they started. But there's enough with the usage for those guys where, I mean, dude, Alec Pierce and Michael Wilson have done really more than Jordan Addison's ever done in his whole career. You know what I mean? And there's just bias there based on where they started, where they were drafted, etc.
Let me give you a few more down here just to see if you would be interested in moving your Wilson for any of these guys, or would you pick them on the clock over Wilson? Is a better way to do it. DK Metcalf.
Wilson.
Christian Watson.
That's a good one. I'd probably go Christian Watson, but that's real close because I think that environment for Watson is kind of similar. So, yes, I'm fine with Watson there.
Wan'Dale Robinson.
Ooh.
Or Michael Wilson. And this is not, this ain't 100% of the time, but your first click at the wide receiver from this tier. It's not your only share, but you're going with which one?
Wilson.
Zay Flowers.
Flowers.
Okay. All right.
But those last couple names, Watson, Pierce, Flowers, Wan'Dale, I think that's the range where Wilson belongs. So if he's in that range in your league, then it's probably preference whether you can get him. But that's probably the range he belongs, somewhere between wide receiver 20 and 35. That's probably the range where he is. And that's the same range Marv should be in, Ray. Unless it's just Marv name hopium, Marv should be in the exact same range, in my opinion.
I'm looking at his range of outcome for next year based on his usage. Looking at Michael Wilson, full season. We're not doing that 7 through 17. So it'd be Jerry Rice as the comp. 15.1.
Jerry Rice.
Yeah. 15. This is what's interesting. I don't know if I've seen this wide of a band. 15-1 at the high end, 8-7 at the low end. It's factoring in some of those games where he didn't early, right? It's the 1 through. It's showing that when, it could be as high as 15, as low as 8, based on his usage and his range. And that's coming directly from what happened in the season with him not being utilized at the beginning. He was on waivers, some spots, or an afterthought, if that.
Now put in Marv. Look what it shows.
For Marvin?
Marvin, yep.
Marvin Harrison. I need to hit update. The same damn thing?
Very similar, yep.
Very
the
similar.
Slightly different. Their trinities were very similar. I think when it's adjusted, it's...
All right. Because Marv got adjusted down.
Yeah, they're very similar.
6'2" to 5'7". And then Wilson got adjusted up. Wow.
So I guess if you just... Before we move on, I think if you believe this range of outcomes, you're really stemming on because here's what we do know. Neither are threatening Trey McBride.
No. There's no.
So the environment is probably going to be dependent on, the question is, can Marv and Michael Wilson produce in the same season if they both play most of the games?
And the answer to that is I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know.
Because what we do know is that hopefully the LaFleur offense continues from the Rams and it is concentrated to where at least you're not worrying about other options besides those two. But in terms of comparing the two and saying which one is just better, I mean, yes, we saw the 4-game sample size of Michael Wilson with Marv not in the game. But we've seen many, and this is what nobody talks about.
Do you see the screen? You see the screen right now?
Yep.
There goes the overlap at on the left with them in. Same time.
Well, and that's what no one ever talks about. Do we ever talk about the 20-plus games they've played together? And Marv's been better in all those games. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I kind of want to go to the 2024 season and just look at what it looked like in 24. This is Arizona is one of the most fascinating spots to me. Here goes last year. Here's 2024. There was 1 week where he outproduced them or had higher usage. 799. This was in week 5. Marv had 5 points. Michael Wilson had 12. Other than that, there wasn't a game in which they played together where I lied. 5.39 to 5.52, and neither of them did shit. But that's them last year. There's their overlap together last year. And that's with Kyler in 24?
It was with Kyler, and then we looked at the Kyler games So I think that's the thing, is I think people want to, whether they want to.
I like this. This is good to compare two players against each other on the same team.
Yeah.
This is a very clean temper expectations if they're both on the field.
Well, because the thought is, okay, well, what Michael Wilson did, there's no way Arizona can put that back in the box. But it's been in the box for 2 years prior to that where they were on the same field at the same time, and there was never an indicator that Michael
None.
Wilson should have gotten more opportunity than Marv.
None.
So maybe there was some bias there. Who knows? But it is a fascinating one to play out. My bet would be this is not a terrible environment, but it's not as good as last year. And Trey McBride's going to eat the same percentage of the pie, which means the total pie is probably a little lower. And you kind of hope that you know the difference between Marv and Michael Wilson at some point. Otherwise, they're probably both fighting for secondary opportunity in a neutral environment. So I love that. That's one of the more fun situations to talk through.
Absolutely.
Because it's not complicated, but there's big stakes because both the secondary receivers are pretty expensive.
Huge stakes. All right, where are we at? How long did we spend on that? Was where are we at?
Well, let's go to the Rams.
Right.
Rams, I think we can hit pretty quick because I know you've talked about their personnel usage. Let's assume for this, I mean, they're losing LaFleur, but they're probably just going to run the exact same thing. So I don't think there's any impact in terms of how they're going to deploy their players. I mean, everybody's going to be back from last year. So I think really the question that people have about the Rams is not how good is Puka Nacua, how good is Devontae Adams. The answer to all their other receivers, Ray, is probably no. This isn't even a room where like any secondary options I'm interested in. It's Colby Parkinson. It's Terrence Ferguson.
Correct.
How good are those guys? Like how good are the tight end options here? Because there's no really receivers that are a threat.
Yet everybody on the screen's rostered. Xavier Smith, Whittington, Atwell, and Mumfield are all across rosters. And
guess what? Atwell's gone, but the other three are still on rookie deals. And I'm guessing the Rams have no reason not to just kind of do what they did this year and just sprinkle in all of them as it is. So
this is why for year one, I wouldn't like a Mekhi Lemon in the Rams. Like
no,
they don't. That's just a spot I don't think would be very fruitful early on. And you could love JSN all you want now. That there were people who thought, wasn't that after his rookie year? But historically bad threshold, bust, never gonna. I'm telling you, that was with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't want Lemon in this situation that is increasingly growing towards using tight ends more and more and less 3 wide receiver sets.
So Higbee's a free agent. We'll talk about Parkinson and Ferguson in a second, but let me just ask you, let's say they do, because they do have that extra first. Let's say it is a pure luxury pick and they do have a receiver as the best player available. Just say they took a receiver. Maybe it's not Lemon, but they took a receiver and they took him in the first round. You already said, like, I'm not probably going to pay they're the next Devontae Adams or Cooper Kupp price, right?
Right.
But what would that actually, how would you treat that? Because you can't deny that it's probably a good environment eventually if that player is good, but you also know that it's probably going to be one you're going to have to pay for and then eat a year of, it's going to be tough sledding for that player to be productive at all. How would you play that if that happened? Would it just be an avoid by later or what? Because you want to get a little taste
I learned from this year that I think multiple things, and that's probably the answer. The answer isn't this is what's going to happen, right? That is probably the answer, that a one-sided, like a one-way street is going to happen where if they take a receiver, the receiver's buried because they run 13 personnel and Devontae Adams is there, and it's probably not the extreme of if they draft the receiver, he's the next Puka Nacua. I think it could easily be a situation where they draft any of those receivers and you don't see them play a ton early, just like we didn't see a lot of Terrence Ferguson because Adams is healthy and Puka's healthy, but there's a world where he gets worked in towards the end like Colston Loveland did in Chicago, and you see that value rise because now you're seeing it play out with Stafford in this offense. There's also a chance where the rookie comes out hot, just like Emeka Egbuka. early on and things are feeling great. And as players get healthy, as the season wears on, that rookie starts to tail off. I am more open and willing to play both ends of the pendulum going into 26, that I'm open to all ranges of outcome. What can I get at that spot for the pick or the player? What can I cash out? What's my transaction value? And then I'll just make the determination from there, because I think a couple of things. The player could just be a flat out bust, right? So they go to a situation like this, and I'm just going to try to play both ends of the spectrum. And I think you can do that if you don't just have, he goes to the Rams and I'm parking him for 2 years until he turns into Puka. Like, I think that's what people will do, though. I'm just going to wait until Adams retires and then Adams plays again. Right now, you're like, I got to wait again. I think you've got to be open to the fact that it can be an Ibuka situation and it can be a Loveland situation. We sit back today and neither of those guys are buried. Both of them had impactful portions of a fantasy season, and both of them had you frustrated at points in time. And that's probably the more likely outcome if any rookie gets to a situation like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you could study, you mentioned all three. JSN, Roma Dunze last year, remember, with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen?
Yeah.
You could also look at Burden this year on the same team. You could look at Emeka Egbuka. Like, you have those situations where generally I think the fantasy community in all of those, yes, they might have said, oh man, JSN was disappointing as a rookie. Egbuka really was disappointing as a rookie after the first 4 games. Adunze was disappointing as a rookie, but there's a level of forgiveness that people will add into that situation and go, as long as they're not a complete zero, if they just hold their own, it will be a valuable asset come year 2. I think the risk is just saying, well, Devontae Adams is going to fade down the stretch and Denzel Boston's going to be their wide receiver 2. Back half of the year, he's already going to be better than Adams. That's where we typically fail is, remember last year, I'm not talking 2025, I'm talking about 2024. That was supposed to be the end of Keenan Allen, right? He was going to fade down on the Bears. He'd be gone by the end of the year.
Yep.
Not only did he not fade on the Bears, but he went to the Chargers and did the same damn thing with the Chargers. So, like, these guys like Devontae Adams, they don't get better. But to just say by week 10, the first round receiver the Rams take is just going to supplant him?
No.
Probably no. And a lot of times we're not always right. We think, oh, Adams will retire after this year. And then guess what? What if they both, Adams and Stafford, play next year and they're 100% and they go, let's just play another year? Like, that's possible too. So I hope it happens, but it's probably not. So let's assume the Rams don't add a receiver. Their receivers are easy to work through. It's Adams, it's Puka. I want to look at Parkinson and Higbee before we move on, because I think both of them are very intriguing options, especially if they're both going to play as much as they did last year. Or Parkinson and not Higbee, Ferguson. With Higbee out of the way. Yep, Ferguson and Parkinson.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of want to look at the I'm going to look at the historical or the report for those guys and just see what we can glean from it.
What weeks are you going to filter out? I've got some, I'm going to pull up some stuff as well.
I mean, I don't think we need to filter out anything, because remember, coming into the year, it really wasn't obvious who their starting tight end was going to be. You know what I mean? And it really, I mean, it didn't ever break in a certain way where it was like, yes, this is the tight end one. I mean, even Davis Allen had a couple weeks where he was getting good usage. So I think you kind of just have to bet that, okay, these two were part of a quad of tight ends that played a lot, but can their roles get better? Maybe Ferguson gets a little bit of a break because he was a rookie, but I'm just trying to work through these two because I kind of like both. It's just managing what your expectation is if they have two guys.
Give me a range. Okay, I need you to give me a weekly range. We got to filter something because I'm just going to give you a little data analysis, 2023, 2024, 2025.
Let's start second half of the year.
Okay, give me
9 through 17. That's Ferg, second half of the year. We typically do that for rookies, just to look at the down the stretch.
9 through 17, you said?
Yep.
Right, 9 through 17. Done. Update. Always got to hit that update chart, man. You always got to update that chart. All right, make sure we're looking at the same thing. We got, what do you have?
Yep.
You got Ferg at a 2.3?
I got Ferg at 2.38 for the for that stretch.
2.38. I've got Parkinson at 3.81. And where was he at? Right at 11 points per game, 3.81. I'll just say this, Scott. The historical data over the last 3 years is not kind to tight ends like that. It's just it's not good when you're in that range.
What about tight ends in situations where there are 4 tight ends between a 2 and a 3.5?
And that is what we can't, there is some context. There's some context, but I'll just say over the last 3 years, tight ends below a 3.5 Trinity score, never had a tight end finish with over 11 points per game. In that 3 year, 182 player season sample size, that's one of the thresholds. You can see it right here that the tight end needs to be in right there. 0. And he's below that. And I'll just say this. I was one who made some of those exceptions last year. When Rome Odunze, I'm looking at his historical chart and I'm like, well, you know what? He's got Ben Johnson and these things are going to change and he's going to be used as the one. And it happened for a little bit, but over the whole stretch of the season, the tool was right. He did not ascend to that next level. He finished exactly kind of in that range that the historical range of outcome tool told me it was, but I brushed it off and was like, nah, no way. No way.
So I guess that's the conclusion then. Like, Higbee's gone, but Davis Allen's still there. Parkinson's still there. The ascension, I mean, it just kind of feels like the answer is just don't really bet on a Rams tight end. Like, if we had to draft today, this wouldn't be the tight end situation. Especially like an early best ball where you kind of don't know. You're trying to capture guaranteed roles. Even if you don't know how good the offense is going to be, you're trying to capture a guaranteed role, and there really isn't one here based on this usage.
It's if you want one, it's Tyler Higbee. Colby Parkinson. Now, and maybe
what's that say about roles.
Maybe they flip roles, but listen, there's what they are right there. But this is no maybes. This is how we used it down the end of the stretch. Maybe they flip roles. And even then, he was right at 11.
Well, I think the guy people are pushing up is like Ferguson, but I think what I'm taking away from what you're saying is that even if Ferguson ascends and leaps Parkinson in usage, like how high can he truly go when you have the other guys getting the usage that
Correct.
they probably are going to get again? How high does he go in the tight end ranks per se? And it's probably not higher than many other options that are not being valued because they are second-year guys that had some buzz. You know what I mean? There's probably cheaper, economical options I can find at tight end if I'm paying for Terrence Ferguson.
I mean, these target shares are just gnarly. When you've got that many tight ends, not even just receivers, Scott, that many tight ends with that similar, and this is, I believe, for the full season right here. Look at Davis.
Well, their tight ends are just their gnats. Those are their gnat receivers,
right? my point is, it's not gnat. I don't even care about them towards Puka and Devontae. It's them to one another. You've got one tight end, 6% share for Davis Allen, a 5% share for Ferguson, a 10% share for Higbee, and a 10% share for Parkinson. I mean, it's just, that's 26%, 32% between those 4 tight ends. It's them versus one another, and if they're going to run 2 and 3 tight end sets, I don't know how much separation can Ferg get. The thing that really helped Parkinson was he had 6 damn touchdowns. Like, that helped out a lot. He had 6 touchdowns. But between those even Davis Allen had 24 receptions, double that of Terrence Ferguson. Double.
Well, I guess the only thing you have to hope for is that the Rams don't lose Tyler Higbee and they decide to just add another tight end. Hey, we're going to play 3 at a time, Ray. We need at least 4 on the active roster.
The mistake will be Higbee's gone. It's wheels up Ferguson. And it's like, probably not. Probably not. All right.
Yep, well said. Where you want to go, Cardinals or Seahawks?
Oh, we are. Remember, we spent 1 million hours on the Cardinals already.
No. 49ers or Seahawks.
Oh, Niners. Oh, damn. We still got 2 more teams? Seahawks. Yep. Good Lord. Seahawks. Let's go Seattle.
Well, I say Seattle should be quick, but I
look at that Torrey Horton up there. Let me redo. Let me update this. Let's make sure this is correct. There we go. Jeremiah Smith here at the top. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Sorry, Jeremiah Smith. Jackson Smith and Jigba at the top.
Getting people excited.
Sorry. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Good grief. Jeremiah Smith.
So Rashid Shaheed is a free agent. That is the only departing offensive weapon in the passing game. I am interested in what you think about this. We kind of have a similar setup here with the AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo versus Colby Parkinson and Terrence Ferguson, but you don't have the second receiver in Seattle. So if you just look at these tight end situations, environment aside, because I do think the Rams environment is friendlier than the Seahawks, but they also don't have Devontae Adams. So like, I think a lot of people actually are higher on like Terrence Ferguson than they might be on Elijah Arroyo. But I would look at this and go, Barner's not going to get out of the way, but within the Seattle offense, Barner might have, or Arroyo may have a better shot to crack something even higher than what Ferguson might have within the Rams offense. And I don't think that's the current market, but that's my takeaway. The other guys that's getting some buzz is Torrey Horton.
Torrey Horton, is he getting buzz?
Shaheed, I've heard a few shows talking about, well, he's going to be their wide receiver too. The usage for the season, even in the games he played, doesn't support that. Like, he's just going to step into a bigger role. They still have Cooper Kupp. So I know people don't like Cooper Kupp, but I can't look at their usage and say Torrey Horton's going to get used more than Cooper Kupp.
Right.
Even at this stage in his career. So like, what is Torrey Horton? If people are excited for him to be the wide receiver 2, that's the narrative. Shaheed leaves, he's the 2.
Yes.
And it's just hard for me to look at he's the 2 when there's probably many other environments where I'd rather have the true 2, and I'd rather have the true 2 than just relying on him being that. I don't know. That's the one I think people probably wonder about. Not JSN. I think JSN's like McBride. That was probably his best season. But that's okay if he goes backwards a little bit because it was so freaking good. Like, it's going to be hard to just expect him to repeat it or he's a bust. Like, you can't treat him like that. But
you can't treat him like that. What do you people think Horton's going to be the 2, huh? You're hearing that?
Well, I think it's just whether they think it's going to be the 2 or it's just Rashid Shaheed is leaving. Nobody likes Cooper Kupp. Their tight ends are a committee.
I get that.
By default, it has to be Torrey Horton.
Right.
So if you just look at his usage last year, so he missed week 10 and beyond. So let's look at 1 through 9, what it looked like with Torrey Horton in the mix. And that was without Shaheed. So 1 through 9.
All right, give me that.
Okay, so 1 through 9.
Oh, I was looking at something else. I got 1 through 9. My bad, man.
No, you're good. I'm doing it on my screen too. So 1 through 9, that is the games Torrey Horton played without Rashid Shaheed.
I'm pulling it up too since I got here. Without Shaheed. Update. All right, where's he at? 3-1?
3-1-7, yep. So even when he played, because he missed week 10 and beyond, even when he played, like, his usage still wasn't better than Cooper Kupp. It wasn't better than AJ Barner. When Shaheed came in, we can look at Shaheed's usage. We can go 10 through 17 and look at Shaheed because we know Torrey Horton didn't move. So I don't know, man. That feels like we can go to KTC as well. I think Torrey Horton's the kind of guy you can recycle because you could get something for him, but like I'm not banking on him being a viable option in the offense next year.
Over the last 3 years of qualified receivers who hit the sample size of a Trinity score below 3, below 4, below 4.
Okay. And he was at 3.7, so 3.17.
Below 4, their next year wide receiver 1 hit rate, and wide receiver 1 defined as 13 points per game or higher, is 3%. 32 players, 3% of that 32 hit 13 points per game in the following season. 3% of that 32. So small sample size, not a big percentage outcome.
Yeah, and I think that's very telling. You're talking about a 3% chance, and the cutoff is 13 points per game. We're not
13.
even talking, like you said, wide receiver 1. I think people feel wide receiver 1, but that's a liberal threshold for even wide receiver 1, and that's still a low probability.
3%. I'm being very generous. I'm being very generous. But yes, the tier is like they're just kind of like bench players. I mean, you throw them in and you hope it's a lottery ticket. 3% even out of 32. It's a lottery ticket.
So just to equate some names with that, you have roughly a 3% chance based on the historic usage to get
over the last 3 years. Over the last 3 years.
Christian Watson, to get J-Mo. That's the 3% outcome for Torrey Horton. And it's already in a range where you're kind of like, sure, I'll take that guy, but there's not a lot of stuff you can do with those types of players unless you're finding a very specific moment to buy or sell. So, yeah, he feels like a guy. If I have Torrey Horton, listen, you probably got him off waivers last year.
Yeah.
So if you can get a third for him, I would rather actually re-roll a lottery ticket this year in a different situation, even if it's a running back, even if it's a tight end. Like, that is the kind of guy that you might even be able to get 2 lottery tickets in this year's class. You might be able to get like a 305 and a 401. And it's not that you think you're going to draft a better Torrey Horton. It's just I can suspend having to do anything with that pick for a couple months and decide if there's a better deal that comes along. But that's what I'm doing.
That's nice. Him. Yeah. If you could do that, I would. I'm not betting on him hitting 15 points per game next season. I'm not doing that. Not doing that.
Look here real quick. I want to look at AJ Barner's historical range of outcomes because he had better uses than I think people gave him credit for in 2025. Like, he's a legitimate. Okay, I'm looking at it right now.
I like AJ. I said it 2 years ago. I liked AJ Barner.
This is interesting, right? Because yes, this isn't great, but again, like, we're mostly, when you're talking a tight end in the range of AJ Barner, you're talking in a PPR league. I don't care, right?
Right.
But in a higher premium, man, like, you take 7.57. I think it's probably somewhere around like 20. I think it was 26%-ish is the average tight end that converts his points overall, like total points. It's around 26% of the total points on average are from catches. So if you just take that median range of outcomes right there.
Okay.
And you take a quarter of that. So 25 to 26, round it down to 25. You're talking about 2 points of his 8 he's getting from catches. You add a premium onto that, his median is probably around like 10 points in a 1.75 or a 2. That's not great, but I think he doesn't get that respect in terms of, like, he could be a flex in that right format. You know what I mean? Like,
let me give you some tight end cutoffs. And these are not, I'm not giving you Trey McBride numbers here, but the number that I'm going to give you is a little higher than the median range outcome that you see right here. It's a tad bit higher. Okay. Not much, but a tad bit higher. If Trinity this year, what percent chance of the score being 8+ points per game next year? Okay. Here goes your cutoffs. All right. 8 points per game is the tight end threshold. All right. 4.5 is the cutoff. 57% chance to get at least 8 points per game next season. All right. At 5 for the tight end position, if your tight end can hit a 5 Trinity, 68% chance at 8 points per game. 5.5, 79% chance And if you're at a 6.0 for a tight end, you've got an 88% chance to at least score 8 points per game next year. And that's just PPR. So if you go half or, a full point per, it goes up. But there goes some of the ranges for the tight end position with that threshold.
Yeah, and let's just say we'll call it.
He's right at 4 or 5. Yeah, he's over there.
Premium. He would have finished in the top 20.
Yes.
So we're not talking about a great starting option. We're talking about in the right format. He's probably in that bottom end, like flex range area. You know who's probably a pretty good comp for AJ Barner? I think somebody like a Dalton Schultz is a pretty decent comp for him. If you could get a career like that, I don't want to say Hunter Henry, but like Jake Ferg, Dalton Schultz, Hunter Henry, it probably just depends on the concentration and the environment of how high he can go in a given season. But it doesn't feel like, I think you could get AJ Barner for Elijah Arroyo. You could get AJ Barner for Terrence Ferguson and probably get a third added on top.
I think we're kind of undershooting Barner a little. This offense is going to change. It's not going to look the same. I think he's a nice piece to get added to your rosters. I like him a lot. I really do. I think he's for cost and what he did. And if we did, look at some stuff a little bit later and you're talking about the tight end premium, he probably tracks very, very well. So those are just low thresholds for the position. Just a little Trinity analysis that I've done with some of the data.
And the reason you act now is because there is the anticipation that Elijah Arroyo will take a step up.
Oh, yeah, we need to look.
But Ray, if we're 6 weeks into the season and Arroyo's still buried and Barner is smashing, that narrative will flip. You know what I mean? But I think there's that window of time this offseason where you can probably still get a deal done if you're so interested.
All right. San Francisco, this will be quick because they don't have many receivers.
This will be quick because they don't have many players that are going to be there next year.
That's what I mean. They don't have. Who's under contract? Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle, Tonjes is a free agent. Jennings is gone. I believe Bourne is a free agent. I believe Scott Moore is a free agent. Demarcus Robinson, I believe it's Watkins and Pearsall.
It is everybody. Actually, so Tonjes is a restricted free agent. I can't imagine they don't keep him with Kittle's injury.
They got to keep him.
But yeah, Bourne is gone. Jennings is gone. Sky Moore is gone. We know Ayuk is gone, even though he doesn't show up.
He's not even on the thing.
They have a whole.
That's all you got.
They have a whole pass catching room.
Yeah, they only have a receiver. They got a receiver. That's it.
I mean, this is one you've continually said and mocked. They could take a receiver at the end of the first, right? Like this feels like a team that takes BPA. Concepcion, Denzel Boston, Zachariah Branch. I mean,
dude, I thought I was looking at the KTC chart. This is the Trinity. I thought this was like, is this KTC? This is their usage right now.
Is that for the season?
That's
hit update.
Yeah, let me update. I'm about to say, let me hit update. You gotta. Here we go. Whew.
Yeah, as I say, mine
maybe I was KTC. Okay. Here we go. Kittle, Jennings, Pearsall, and a little elevator. But yeah, nobody else.
I mean, Ray, their only guy above a 6. Their only 2 guys above 6s are gone.
Yeah.
Or at least probably not expected to be the same. I know Kittle's still on the team, but I'm not betting on him just repeating his usage. You know what I mean? We'll see it. I'll see it when I believe it, or the other way around. But I don't know what else to say there is. I mean, I think the analysis is it's a good environment. And Pearsall's still there. Like, I kind of want to look at Pearsall's range of outcomes because his usage isn't as bad as I think the memories people have because he's been so unavailable and he's been in and out and he just hasn't been on the field. But I'm curious. I want to look at can we look at his range of outcomes for 24?
Let me go. I was just looking at our little stuff we're cooking up in the back, that environment matrix. I was just checking out to see where San Francisco ranked because you said this is a good environment. So I went to look just to look. And Yeah, they're in the blue chip quadrant. So very good environment. Very good.
Hmm.
There's Ricky. Is that what you got? 5.54?
Yep. Yep.
15,
5.92
11.
Trinity for last year,
Yep.
adjusted down to 5.42 points
Yep.
per game, 9.84. I don't know, man. He feels like it's a risky, but it's a health risk. I see this usage. I see a good environment. I don't know. I honestly don't even really know where the Pearsall market is because it feels like he's just been one of those players that people have put out of sight, out of mind. But I can see the story. I can see the story for him. Is this crazy to say? I can see the story for Pearsall ahead of saying I know which one of the Cardinals it's going to be, receiver-wise, because there's no McBride.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the environment's probably just as good or better in San Francisco. So we already debated Marv versus Michael Wilson, but why not Ricky Pearsall over both? Aside from I think he's going to get injured.
But I mean, it's not like, look at the chart. Like, this is Pearsall this is Pearsall versus Pearsall for the last 2 years.
There's too many line breaks in there. There's not even like consistent games in a row.
This year you got him for 4 weeks, and then you lost him until week 11, and then you had him until week 13, and then you lost him week 14, then he was back 15, and then out 16.
Am I reading that right? Has he never played more than 4 games in a row?
In a row. That's correct. Yes. 3, 3, 4, 1, 1, and 4. That's that is why it's hard to buy. When he's out there, he's pretty good. You see some of the highs, 9-3, 19 points. 6-7 got him 17. Like, I look at that. Even when the score's low, if you're getting me high output, that lets me know it's an efficient offense, which we know San Francisco is. I mean, there's this year 15 and 17. This is Pearsall over the last 2 years. So, yeah, man, they need to draft a receiver, and it's hard to depend on this. Like, what am I paying for this? I don't like playing that a game either, Scott, but this is what you got. Talk about dealing with that in a season.
I mean, what's your personal appetite on? Because, I mean, I see a pretty good player in a good environment.
I do
it's
too.
Really just, is he going to be available?
I wouldn't mind him what's the price?
So let me ask you this. Is there a world where he ascends into a tier above what we were talking about? Is there anything that makes you think, okay, he could be a top 15 option? Because if not, then you're kind of paying. I'm not saying you can get him cheaper or at the same cost as a Marv or a Michael Wilson or a Christian Watson or a JMO, but I think he's in that bucket. So unless you're getting potential added bonus from him, you already know you're building in a guy that has never played more than 4 games in a row. So like at that cost of, at the cost of Jamison Williams, is it worth getting Ricky Pearsall at the same cost?
No.
You know what I mean?
No. Okay. No.
Because those are the guys he's getting compared to, right? But there have been guys that have been much more available than he's been. So
yeah, I just I don't like doing that stuff either, Scott. I'm not a big let injuries impact decisions kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think injuries are kind of fluky until they're not. Until you're always, and he has not been. He hasn't been. And on the high end, I don't know. I mean, here's the why do I have the Panthers up? Who's us with the Cardinals? Let's just look at the NFC West Trinity and where he ranks. Yeah, he's right there with Marv, Michael Wilson, Shaheed, Cooper Kupp. Not a lot of great receivers in this division, and I would comfortably take Michael Wilson over Ricky Pearsall. Comfortably.
Okay. I mean, I think that answers the question because I think all those guys we named are all in the same bucket, whether one is wide receiver 24 or 30 or whatever. Like, they're all in that bucket that's below. Remember all the names you read off Wilson verse?
Yeah.
They're all in that bucket below. And so
I agree.
Unless you think he's the one of all of that group where he could just ascend to a level we've never seen from any of the others, it feels like you're buying risk at a price that you don't need to buy a risk at. You can just buy a safer option that has basically a similar range of outcomes. And his range of outcomes was almost the same as Marv and Michael Wilson.
I'll give you my final thoughts about this division. And I'm looking at this matrix, Scott. This entire division there's upside here. Like where Arizona currently sits, there's some upside available. Seattle, I know people they won the Super Bowl. JSN was great. But offensively, there was really nobody outside of Jackson Smith and Jig. But like this could be better. It could be a better environment. There's room. And then, as you said, San Francisco's already sky high. And then you add, what the Rams are already the top environment in the NFL. This is a good place to invest some fantasy chips in some of these premium guys, even some of the veterans. It's going to be interesting to see who these teams add, who does Seattle add, what do they do at tight end? Because I do think Barner's one of those guys where maybe it's JSN and Barner. Elijah Arroyo's not guaranteed shit because he was drafted in round 2. There's a world Barner's not outside of the nasty cluster. He's right there. Right? So this is a good division.
Only division that has all of the teams in the top 20 in environment.
Yep.
Every other division has at least one stinker at the bottom or in the bottom quadrant. So it's a good division. I think it's one that has probably some of the more intriguing rivalries, and I'm excited to see what the Niners do. I'm excited to see what the Cardinals do at quarterback. I think the Rams are pretty finite. We talked about them. I think they pretty much are what they are. Maybe they add a player here, but then, of course, they have 2 first-rounders, right? They could shock us. They could take a receiver. They could take a tight end. Yeah. I mean, they could take best player available, and it wouldn't shock me. You know what I mean? And then we're navigating again, man. Didn't you mention the other day, what if the Rams take Sadiq?
Listen,
you're just like, but yeah, they're dangerous because they have 2 firsts. It could take an offensive skill player.
They are true.
Said there's no room for anybody there.
They are a true wild card. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
That is it. That is NFC West Trinity. We will be back next week. I think we're going to probably go to the AFC East next week. So Buffalo, Miami, New England Patriots, runners up in the Super Bowl, and then, of course, the New York Jets, which I'm not super excited to talk about the Jets, but that'll be number 6. We are doing these episodes leading up to NFL free agency, with kicks off in less than a month. So we'll be done with all 8 of these. We're working on some other stuff behind the scenes that we'll be doing some consistent content on probably throughout the rest of the spring and the summer. So you'll get a show every week with Ray and I of something where we're talking through some angle or data or metric or tool or something like that. So if you're not a member, become a member on YouTube. $3.99 a month. Hit the join button. The link is in every single video that we put out on DDFFB. And then jump in the community. Patreon or the website gets you access to the Discord, and that's where we're talking about this stuff all the time. So that's all I got, man.
Good stuff. We appreciate you. Hit that thumbs up button, like, comment, subscribe, join the community, and we shall see y'all next week. We are out. Peace.